If you have O-negative blood, you are one of roughly 7% of the global population. 1 in 14 people. In a room of 100, only 7 of you exist. You are the universal donor. Your blood can be given to any person on Earth, regardless of their blood type, in any emergency, without testing, without matching, without delay. When a trauma patient arrives at a hospital, and there is no time to type their blood, it is your blood type they reach for. O-negative, the blood that saves strangers. But here is what the blood banks do not tell you when they call asking for your donation. Your blood type is not just rare, it is ancient. It is the oldest blood type in the human species. And the reason it can be given to anyone is not because it is special, it is because it is empty. Your red blood cells carry no A antigens, no B antigens, no Rh factor protein. Every other blood type has something on the surface of its cells. Yours has nothing. Your blood is defined not by what it carries, but by what it is missing. And those missing pieces, the A antigen, the B antigen, the Rh protein, are not missing because they were never there. They are missing because the genes that produce them are broken, deleted, silenced. Your DNA carries the instructions for blood type antigens. The instructions do not work. And the reason they do not work is the subject of this video. Subscribe. Because the blood in your veins is carrying a genetic story that is older than civilization, more complex than any other blood type, and connected to a population in Europe that predates every empire that ever existed on the continent. Blood type is determined by the ABO gene on chromosome 9 and the RHD gene on chromosome 1. These two genes, sitting on different chromosomes, combine to produce your complete blood type designation. The ABO gene codes for an enzyme called glycosyltransferase. This enzyme attaches sugar molecules to the surface of your red blood cells. The A version of the gene attaches one specific sugar, creating the A antigen. The B version attaches a different sugar, creating the B antigen. The AB type has both versions active. Both sugars are attached. Type O has neither. The O allele is not a third version of the gene that produces a third kind of sugar. The O allele is the A gene with a single nucleotide deleted. One letter of genetic code out of roughly 1,000 in the gene is missing. That single deletion shifts the reading frame of the entire gene, producing a non-functional enzyme that cannot attach any sugar to the red blood cell surface. Your O blood type exists because of a broken gene, a single missing nucleotide, a typo in the genetic code that destroyed the enzyme's ability to function. The gene is still there, the machinery is still there, but one missing letter makes the entire instruction unreadable. That is the ABO side. The Rh side is even more dramatic. The Rh factor is determined by the RHD gene. Rh positive means the gene is present and functional, producing the RHD protein on the surface of your red blood cells. Rh negative means the gene is not just broken, it is gone. In most Rh negative individuals, the entire RHD gene has been deleted from chromosome 1. Not mutated, not silenced, deleted. The DNA sequence that should be there is physically absent. If you are O-negative, your body carries a broken ARBO gene that cannot produce surface antigens and a deleted RHD gene that is physically missing from your chromosome. Two independent genetic events on two different chromosomes, both resulting in absence. Your blood type is defined by two things that are not there. The universal donor is the person whose blood is missing the most. That is the genetic reality of O-negative. The blood that can save everyone carries the least information on its surface. The emptiness is the gift. Type O is the ancestral blood type, the original, the first. The A and B blood types evolved from O through mutations that created functional glycosyltransferase enzymes capable of attaching new sugars to the cell surface. These mutations occurred at different times and in different populations over the last several million years. The dating is debated, but the consensus is that type O is the oldest, type A appeared next, and type B is the most recent of the three. The evidence comes from multiple lines of research. Population genetics shows that type O is the most common blood type globally, found in every population on Earth, with the highest frequencies in populations that are the most genetically isolated. Molecular clock analysis of the ABO gene suggests that the O allele predates the divergence of modern humans from our closest primate relatives. The most striking evidence comes from the Americas. Indigenous populations of Central and South America have type O frequencies approaching 100%. Some groups are 100% type O, no A, no B. The populations that crossed the Bering Land Bridge roughly 15,000 to 20,000 years ago and populated the Americas carried predominantly type O blood. They were isolated from Eurasian populations for 15,000 years, and in that isolation, type O remained virtually universal. This does not mean type O is better, it means type O is older. It was the blood type that every human carried before the A and B mutations appeared and spread through populations that were in contact with the diseases and environments that made those mutations advantageous. Your O-negative blood is not a variant. It is the foundation. Every other blood type is a modification of yours. A and B are add-ons. Rh positive is an add-on. You carry the baseline. The version that existed before the modifications were invented. If you have made it this far, subscribe. The next chapter reveals the one population in Europe that carries O-negative at the highest rate on the continent, and their identity is the biggest clue to where your blood type came from. In the mountains between Spain and France, straddling the Western Pyrenees, there is a population of roughly 3 million people who speak a language that is related to no other language on Earth. They are the Basques, and they have the highest concentration of O-negative blood in Europe. Roughly 30 to 35% of Basques are Rh negative, compared to roughly 15% for the rest of Europe, and less than 1% for most Asian and African populations. The Basque O-negative frequency specifically is among the highest documented in any population. The Basque language, Euskara, is a linguistic isolate. It has no known relatives. It does not belong to the Indo-European language family that includes English, Spanish, French, German, Russian, Hindi, and nearly every other European and South Asian language. Euskara predates them all. Linguists believe it is a surviving remnant of the languages spoken across Europe before the Indo-European migration swept the continent roughly 4,500 years ago. The Basques are, genetically and linguistically, a relic population. They are descended from the people who lived in Western Europe before the waves of migration that brought farming from the Middle East and later the Indo-European languages from the steppe. Their DNA shows high continuity with Mesolithic European hunter-gatherers dating back over 7,000 years. The high Rh negative frequency among the Basques is therefore not a modern anomaly. It is an ancient baseline. The Rh negative rate in Europe before the arrival of Middle Eastern farmers and steppe pastoralists was likely much higher than it is today. As new populations migrated into Europe bringing Rh positive genes with them, the Rh negative frequency was diluted everywhere except in the Basque country, where geographic isolation and cultural distinctiveness preserved the older genetic profile. If you are O-negative and of European descent, the probability that your Rh negative allele traces back through the pre-Indo-European population of Western Europe, the same population the Basques descend from, is significant. Your deleted Rhd gene may be an artifact of the oldest surviving genetic lineage in Europe. A lineage that was in the mountains before Rome, before Greece, before the pyramids, before agriculture itself. The Basques did not evolve the Rh negative trait. They retained it. Everyone else was diluted. The Basques were protected by mountains, by language, and by a cultural identity strong enough to resist absorption for 7,000 years. Your blood type may carry a trace of that resistance. The deleted gene on your chromosome 1 may be an inheritance from a population so old that the language they spoke has no surviving relatives, and the blood they carried is now the rarest in the species they predate. O-negative blood carries both advantages and a paradox that evolution has never resolved. The advantages first. Type O blood, including O-negative, provides significant protection against severe malaria. The Plasmodium falciparum parasite, the deadliest malaria species, uses a protein called rifin to bond to red blood cells and form clusters called rosettes. These rosettes clog small blood vessels and cause the organ damage that makes malaria lethal. Rifin bonds more effectively to A and B antigens than to O-type cells. Type O blood forms smaller rosettes. The malaria is less severe. The survival rate is higher. In regions where malaria has been endemic for thousands of years, primarily sub-Saharan Africa and tropical Asia, type O frequencies are elevated. The trait was selected for because it kept people alive. Your blood type may owe its persistence partly to a mosquito-borne parasite that has been killing humans for millennia. Type O also confers reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. A 2020 study published in Arteriosclerosis, Thrombosis, and Vascular Biology found that the ABO gene was associated with 11 health outcomes, and type O carriers had significantly lower risks of blood clots, venous thromboembolism, and certain cardiovascular events compared to non-O types. The mechanism is related to von Willebrand factor, a clotting protein that circulates at roughly 25% lower levels in type O individuals. Less clotting factor means lower clot risk. Lower clot risk means fewer heart attacks and strokes, but the advantages come with a cost. Type O individuals have a higher risk of peptic ulcers. The bacterium Helicobacter pylori, which causes stomach ulcers, binds more effectively to the surface of type O red blood cells and stomach lining cells. The same empty surface that makes O blood universal for donation makes the stomach lining more vulnerable to bacterial adhesion. And then there is the paradox that O-negative women face: Rh incompatibility. When an Rh-negative mother carries an Rh-positive baby, the mother's immune system can recognize the baby's Rh-positive blood cells as foreign and produce antibodies against them. The first pregnancy is usually unaffected, but in subsequent pregnancies with Rh-positive babies, the mother's antibodies can cross the placenta and attack the baby's red blood cells, causing hemolytic disease of the newborn. Before the development of RhoGAM, an injection that prevents the immune response, this condition was a leading cause of infant death. RhoGAM was developed in the 1960s and has saved millions of lives. But the evolutionary paradox remains. How did the Rh-negative trait survive if it caused the death of Rh-positive babies born to Rh-negative mothers? In a population where Rh-negative and Rh-positive individuals were mixing, the Rh-negative mothers would have lost more babies. Natural selection should have eliminated the trait. The leading theory is that the Rh-negative trait survived because it provided other advantages, possibly related to immune function or disease resistance, that outweighed the reproductive cost. Another theory is that the trait persisted in isolated populations like the Basques, where the frequency was so high that most pairings were between two Rh-negative individuals, eliminating the incompatibility problem entirely. The paradox has not been solved. The Rh-negative deletion has survived in the human genome for tens of thousands of years, despite a built-in reproductive disadvantage. Something is keeping it alive, and whatever that something is, it has been powerful enough to override natural selection's efforts to eliminate it. So consider your blood one more time. If you are O-negative, you carry two independent genetic deletions on two separate chromosomes. A single missing nucleotide in the ABO gene that broke the enzyme responsible for attaching surface antigens, and a complete deletion of the RHD gene that removed the Rh protein entirely from your red blood cells. The result is a blood cell that carries nothing on its surface. No A, no B, no Rh empty. And that emptiness is the reason your blood can be given to any human being alive. The immune system of the recipient has nothing to react to. Your blood is invisible to their defenses. The emptiness that makes you the universal donor also makes you the most restricted recipient. You can only receive O-negative blood. Every other type will trigger a reaction. You can give to everyone. You can receive from almost no one. The most generous blood type is also the most vulnerable. Your blood type is the oldest in the species. The ancestral state, the foundation from which AB and Rh positive evolved, the indigenous populations of the Americas carried it at near 100% frequency. The Basques of Western Europe carry the Rh-negative component at the highest rate on the continent because they are the remnant of the population that was there before everyone else arrived. Your blood resists malaria better than A or B. It clots less, reducing your risk of heart attack and stroke. It is more vulnerable to stomach ulcers. And if you are a woman, your deleted RHD gene creates a potential conflict with Rh-positive babies that medicine solved only 60 years ago. All of this is in 7% of the population, 1 in 14 people. The universal donor, the restricted recipient, the oldest blood type, the Basque connection, the malaria shield, the paradox that evolution has not resolved. The next time a blood bank calls you, and they will call you because they always call O-negative, you will know what you are giving. Not just blood, a genetic artifact. The oldest version of the human circulatory system, carried in a red blood cell that is empty on the outside and carrying 300,000 years of human history on the inside. 7% of the global population, 2 deleted genes, 0 surface antigens, the oldest blood type in the species, the highest concentration in the Basques, the oldest surviving population in Europe, malaria resistance, lower heart disease risk, higher ulcer risk, a reproductive paradox that evolution has not solved in tens of thousands of years, and a phone that rings every 56 days because the blood bank knows you are one of the 7% they cannot function without. If you are O-negative, you now know what your blood is carrying. If you are not, you now know who is saving your life in the emergency room when there is no time to check your type. Drop a comment with your blood type. O-negative, O-positive, A, B, AB. And if you are O-negative, when was the last time you donated? The blood bank is waiting. Subscribe for more. Share this with someone who is O-negative. They deserve to know what is in their veins. We will see you next time.